You're waiting for the car of your dreams. The manufacturer promises it'll float on water, have unbreakable windows, and cost way less than it actually does. You put your money down, and then reality hits. Today, we're diving into 7 cars that had us all hyped up, only to leave us wondering what the hell happened. From outright scams to engineering disasters, these vehicles prove that sometimes the hype train crashes harder than the cars themselves. Stick around, because number 4 is absolutely wild. Hey everyone, welcome back to Carretera. You know, the automotive industry has given us some incredible innovations over the years, but it's also delivered some spectacular disappointments. We're talking about cars that made promises bigger than their actual capabilities. Some fell short, some were flat-out lies, and one helped start a world war. Yeah, we're going there. Let's get into it. Starting off our list is a car that's actually still in development, but it's already raising eyebrows. The Bugatti Tourbillon. Now, when Bugatti unveiled this beauty in June 2024, they promised something incredible, an all-new hypercar from the ground up. We're talking a 3.8 million euro masterpiece with a hybrid V16 engine pumping out 1,800 horsepower. On paper, it sounds absolutely insane. They claimed it would hit 60 miles per hour in just 2 seconds flat and reach 250 miles per hour in about 25 seconds. Those are numbers that would make your head spin faster than the engine themselves. But here's the thing, when you actually look at the Tourbillon, you start playing a game of, I've seen that before. That aggressive front end looks familiar, doesn't it? Those side vents? Yeah, we've seen those on the Chiron. That rear design, it's giving major Mistral vibes with a dash of Devo thrown in for good measure. The criticism isn't that it looks bad. Actually, it looks gorgeous. The problem is that for a car Bugatti claimed was completely new and didn't share any components with the Chiron, it sure seems to be wearing a lot of hand-me-downs from its siblings. It's like showing up to prom in your older brother's tuxedo and claiming you got it custom-made. And here's what really stings. At nearly 4 million euros, people expect revolutionary, not evolutionary. They want something that makes them go, whoa, for reasons beyond just the price tag. Instead, what we got was a collection of greatest hits from previous Bugatti models packaged together with a fancy new name. Look, I'm not saying the Tourbillon won't be an incredible machine when it finally hits the road, but when you promise all new from the ground up and deliver what looks like a really nice remix of your previous work, people are going to call you out on it. That's overpromising 101. All right, let's talk about a car that genuinely hurt. The Volkswagen Blue Sport. Remember the late 2000s? VW showed up with this absolutely gorgeous concept at the Detroit Auto Show. A mid-engined roadster that looked like it was chiseled from a single block of automotive perfection. Clean lines, aggressive stance, and here's the kicker. It was supposed to be an affordable alternative to the Miata. We're talking about bringing mid-engine excitement to the masses. And this wasn't just some pie-in-the-sky concept either. Volkswagen actually built a fully functional prototype. They let journalists drive it. People fell in love with it. The automotive world was buzzing because VW had a history of making crazy concepts into reality. If anyone could pull this off, it was them. The Blue Sport made sense too. It would slot perfectly into VW's lineup, give them something fun and sporty, and there were even plans for sister versions at Porsche and Audi. The whole Volkswagen group could have cashed in on this platform. It was a win-win-win situation. So what happened? Absolutely nothing. That's what hurts the most. After 2015, the Blue Sport just vanished into limbo. No official cancellation announcement, no explanation, nothing. It became automotive vaporware. Volkswagen just stopped talking about it, and we were left with this beautiful what-if scenario. Think about all those Miata drivers who were ready to trade up. Think about the enthusiasts who wanted that mid-engine experience without selling a kidney. They all got ghosted harder than a bad Tinder date. And yeah, if you're still waiting for an affordable mid-engine Volkswagen Roadster, you might want to hit that subscribe button, because we're probably going to need to do a Cars That Finally Happened video in another decade, maybe. All right, now we're getting into the really sketchy territory. Let me introduce you to the TCM Dale. It's the 1970s. Gas crisis is in full swing. People are waiting in line for hours just to fill up their tanks. Gas-guzzling American cars are suddenly looking like terrible investments. Then comes a savior, a three-wheeled car promising 70 miles per gallon. In the 1970s, that was revolutionary. That was game-changing. That was complete bullshit. Enter Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael, the supposed genius behind this miracle vehicle. She positioned herself as this innovative entrepreneur who was going to save America from the gas crisis. The Dale was going to be affordable, efficient, and change everything. People believed it. They opened their wallets. They invested. Here's where it gets wild. Elizabeth Carmichael wasn't even Elizabeth Carmichael. The person behind this whole operation was actually Jerry Dean Michael, a man who had been running from the law for years. This wasn't just overpromising on a car. This was a full-scale con job dressed up in a vehicle concept. How many Dale cars were actually produced and delivered? Zero. Not even one. Not even close. Every dollar that went into this company vanished into the pockets of a con artist. The whole thing was exposed as a massive fraud, and Carmichael/Michael disappeared faster than gas at a 1970s pump. The craziest part is that this scam worked for as long as it did because people were desperate. They wanted to believe in the solution so badly that they ignored all the red flags.
Speaking of cars that sound too good to be true, let's talk about the Devil 16. Because nothing says credible hypercar quite like promising 5,000 horsepower. When this thing was announced, the spec sheet read like a teenager's video game fantasy. 5,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 1.6 seconds, hence the name. A claimed top speed that would make physics professors weep. And at the heart of it all was supposedly a V16 engine that could power a small city. Now, to be fair, the V16 engine was real. They actually built it. But here's the thing about building an engine with that much power. You need everything else to handle it. And that's where this whole thing falls apart, like a house of cards in a hurricane. No gearbox on Earth could handle 5,000 horsepower going through it continuously. It's just not possible with current road-legal technology. But the DeVel people kept pushing these numbers, kept making these claims, and kept taking people's money based on promises that defied the laws of physics and engineering. Then, the first production car was delivered. Want to know what engine was in it? A V8. Not even a particularly powerful one. And when people started looking closer at the chassis and interior, they realized something hilarious and sad at the same time. It was a modified C8 Corvette. They'd basically taken a Corvette, changed some body panels, and called it a hypercar. And that promised V16 production version, years later, we're still waiting. At some point, overpromising crosses the line into just lying, and the DeVel 16 pole vaulted over that line while wearing a jetpack. The sad part is, if they'd just been honest about building a cool body kit for a Corvette with maybe 800 to 1,000 horsepower, people might have actually been interested. Instead, they went for the moon, landed in a crater, and stayed there. Let's rewind to the early 1990s. Small startup company, big dreams. The Vector W8 promised to be America's answer to European supercars, with performance numbers that would make Ferrari nervous. The claims were absolutely bonkers for the time. 242 miles per hour top speed and 1,200 horsepower. This was supposed to be the supercar that put American engineering on the map. And you know what? They actually built and sold 22 of them. So unlike some other entries on this list, the Vector W8 was real. You could buy one, drive it, and feel like a complete badass for about 15 minutes. See, the Vector W8 had some pretty significant problems. The biggest one? It overheated constantly. We're not talking about running a little hot on a summer day. We're talking about I can't drive this for more than a few minutes without the temperature gauge screaming at me levels of overheating. But wait, it gets worse. Remember that claimed 1,200 horsepower? They paired it with a 3-speed automatic transmission. A 3-speed from an older Chevrolet. This was in the 1990s when even economy cars were coming with 5-speed manuals. It's like putting a rocket engine on a tricycle and wondering why it doesn't work quite right. Journalists who tested the car reported multiple breakdowns during review periods. The theoretical top speed calculations done by actual engineers came up significantly lower than the claimed 242 miles per hour.
It's like the Vector engineers just threw a dart at a board of impressive numbers and ran with whatever it landed on. The Vector W8 represents a special kind of overpromising, the kind where you actually build the thing, but it's so plagued with problems that it can't come close to the performance you claimed. At least they tried, though. That's more than some companies on this list can say. I know this one's going to ruffle some fellers, but we've got to talk about the elephant in the stainless steel room. When Elon Musk unveiled the Cybertruck back in 2019, the promises were absolutely wild. And I mean wild. Lasers instead of wipers, because apparently the future doesn't need windshield wipers. Unbreakable windows, demonstrated by throwing a metal ball at them, which immediately broke the windows. Should have been our first clue, honestly. The truck was going to float on water because of tight panel gaps. It was supposed to have a true exoskeleton body that was load-bearing, not just decorative. The stainless steel was advertised as completely corrosion-proof. And perhaps most importantly, it was going to start at a price that made it competitive with traditional pickup trucks. Fast forward to 2024, and the production Cybertruck that finally hit the market was different. Let's go through the list, shall we? Rain-clearing lasers? Nope. It's got regular wipers. In fact, it's got one of the largest single wiper blades ever put on a production vehicle, because that flat windshield is massive. Unbreakable windows? We literally watched them break during the demo, and the production version has regular automotive glass. Floating capability? Yeah, no. It might not sink immediately in water, but calling it a boat is being extremely generous. The exoskeleton? The body is standard unibody construction, just wearing stainless steel panels as decoration. And those supposedly corrosion-proof panels, they've been getting small rust spots, which Tesla actually addressed in recent software updates. Though how a software update fixes rust is beyond me. The starting price shot up significantly from what was originally advertised. The range and towing capacity fell short of the promised numbers. In some real-world tests, it performed worse than a standard Ford F-150, which cost significantly less. Though, to be fair, the acceleration was actually better than promised, 2.6 seconds to 60 miles per hour instead of 2.9. So there's that one win. Look, the Cybertruck is polarizing. Some people absolutely love it. But when we're talking about promises versus reality, this truck promised us the future and delivered something that struggles with the present. And now in 2025, they're still working out issues like oil pump failures through software updates. And now we arrive at number 1, the car with the darkest story on this list. The KDF wagon, which you probably know better as the Volkswagen Beetle. Before you say anything, yes, I know the Beetle became one of the most successful cars in history. But we're not talking about what it became. We're talking about what it was promised to be. In 1930s Germany, Adolf Hitler envisioned a people's car, affordable transportation for every German family. The KDF wagon, which stood for Kraft durch Freude, or Strength Through Joy, was going to be that car. Families could buy it through a stamp savings program. You'd buy a stamp for 5 marks every week, stick it in your booklet, and eventually you'd get your car. Sounds reasonable, right? Hundreds of thousands of German families participated in this program. They dutifully bought their stamps every week, pasting them into their booklets, dreaming of the day they'd drive their own KDF wagon. They paid and paid and paid. Want to know how many families actually received their car? 0. Not a single one. Every penny of that money was secretly funneled into Hitler's military-industrial complex. The whole program was a funding mechanism for preparing for World War II. The factory that was supposed to build these affordable people's cars, it built military vehicles instead. This wasn't a case of engineering challenges or production problems. This wasn't over-promising due to enthusiasm or ambition. This was a deliberate, calculated lie used to fund one of history's darkest chapters. Families saved their money thinking they were investing in their future, when really they were unknowingly funding a war machine. After the war, the car did eventually become the Beetle we all know, and Volkswagen did become successful. But those original families who saved their stamps, they never got their cars. They never got refunds. They got nothing but broken promises wrapped in propaganda. That's why the KDF wagon sits at number 1 on this list, because it proves that sometimes overpromising isn't just about disappointing customers or failing to meet specs. Sometimes it's about something much darker. So, there you have it. 7 cars that promised us the moon and delivered, well, significantly less than that. From outright scams to well-intentioned failures, from overhyped supercars to literal war machines. These vehicles remind us that in the automotive world, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. What's the most overhyped car you can think of? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this trip through automotive disappointment, do me a solid and hit that like button. Subscribe to Carretera if you haven't already, because we've got plenty more automotive deep dives coming your way. Until next time, keep your expectations realistic and your fact-checking strong. See you in the next one.